Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. Today's guest is Hayley Enright, and I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is a nervous system regulation specialist devoted to helping people who know they were never meant to fit into a cookie cutter system. She works with visionaries, creatives, and seekers who feel wired differently and who are really ready to come home to themselves. So just say yes to their own adventure and honor the magic of their own unique path. She's an accomplished energy healer, a licensed acupuncturist. She has delivered more than 16,000 treatments, found 4 studios across 3 countries, and earned 3 master's degrees. Known for her warmth and dedication, she often says she has the best job in the world because every session helps someone rediscover coherence within their body, mind, and spirit. Whether working with remote energy alignment or in-person acupuncture, her practice blends deep clinical experience with intuitive presence, drawing on the ancient wisdom of meridian science, Taoist healing principles, and modern energetic insight. She believes that every time one person heals and uplifts their nervous system, their entire human community, or the entire human community, rises with them, helping us build the future we truly wish to live in. So welcome, Hayley.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And wow, you bring so much profound value and thoughtfulness to the world. And that's really, really special. And you're blending like multiple techniques. So I'd love to find out ah your introduction to energy world versus the acupuncture world, in terms of how you ended up coming and blending multiple modalities together.
Oh, well, it's just kind of a natural progression of exploring these things. So my introduction into working in acupuncture came because of an energetic experience. I was going to be a professor of medieval French literature, and I couldn't figure out why something wasn't sitting right. And I was getting kind of progressively more depressed for no real reason, because on paper, everything looked good in my life, and it was. I had a good life. And but I just couldn't, I was like, something's off, and I couldn't figure out what it is. So one day I was sitting in my apartment. I was living in New York City. I was alone in my apartment. Nobody was there. Sitting there going, "Oh no, what do I do? Help." And then I heard a voice in my body that was not my voice. It had no gender. It said one word, and it was as clear as a bell. It did not repeat itself. It said acupuncture. And I was like, what? Because I never had an experience like this before. But I was also really like, I don't know how to go forward. So the next thing was I got on the computer, I Googled acupuncture schools near me. There were a bunch of interesting choices in New York City, but I picked one that felt like it really resonated, got in, and there we go. So while I was going to acupuncture school, which was delightful, I knew I was in the right place. It's a kind of field of study that never gets boring because it's so old, 3,000 years plus of medicine. You can't learn it all in one lifetime. And for me, that's very engaging because I love to figure out systems. But while I was going to school, I realized that I needed to understand how energy works in order to be a good help for people. So I started a regular meditation practice, and then it just took off from there. And then I started bringing these techniques into sessions with clients, kind of in a quiet way. I wasn't telling them I was doing this because it was just part of what I could offer to support their system. So that's how that grew. And then during COVID, when we couldn't see anybody in person for a while because of lockdown, and I was really concerned about my community and the world in general, and like wondering, like, okay, well, I'm here to help. That's my job. I started giving online remote energy treatments, and then, and that has been taking off. And that's so nice for people because we don't have to be in the same place. And it really offers a different way to think about how you can rebuild your system, whether you're feeling down or whether you're feeling pretty good, but you just need a boost.
Exactly, exactly. And New York City, so is that where you're based right now?
Oh, I live in Lisbon right now, Lisbon, Portugal.
Okay. Lisbon, Portugal, because
Yeah,
I'm born and raised in New York City also in Queens.
nice.
And I love when you're saying New York City because I totally understand there's a plethora of like vocations that you could pick from. And like how did you know what type of like are there types of acupuncture medicine when you're expressing that? And could you differentiate it? Because I didn't know that there were different types of acupuncture systems.
Oh yeah, I mean any system that's been around for as long as this, you got to figure there's many ways to do it, right?
Right.
So most of the schools in the West and in China happen to teach this particular style called TCM, which stands for traditional Chinese medicine. But TCM is actually sort of like a reduced, compacted version of acupuncture. It was created by Chairman Mao in the 50s as an export product into the West. So in a sense, it's like a little bit easier to learn.
Okay.
And in that sense, that was a highly successful marketing tactic, right? Since most of the schools now teach it, it is a little bit easier to learn than other forms of acupuncture. And you know, there's many good things about it, but it's not the only way you can practice, and it's not my main way of practicing. I'm more drawn towards meridian theory, which is older in the sense that well, you know, TCM is kind of from the 50s, and so meridian theory is goes way far back before that. So it's a different way of approaching how things work in your body, in your energy fields. And both of them are good, and people respond to different things in the way that they do. So it just depends what you're interested in. But I do think it's interesting if you go see a practitioner to ask them, oh, okay, do you have TCM training? Do you have extra training? Did you learn a different style? And the school that I went to in New York City was called Tri-State College of Acupuncture. Unfortunately, it closed during COVID, which I was very sad about. But I got very lucky to have chosen that one because they taught us three different styles of acupuncture. TCM was just one. So I got direct, immediate experience that, oh, there's other ways to do this. And so that's how my practice branched out from there.
Now, I understand what you're talking about in terms of the meridian system, which is the map of our systems, period. And then many people don't really think about the fact that their human body is a system, okay?
Mm.
The respiratory system, the nervous system, and that all of these aspects, have to work in alignment and in rhythm with one another. And one of them's off. They're just off. So is well, a couple of questions, which is working with the meridian system automatically indicative of working with energy, or like as a shaman, I'm looking at it from the perspective of like I look at the system of the body as a whole, and I'm looking at the light body on the external. I'm looking at the system and the flow of the system internally, but I'm not looking at it the way that you're looking at it in terms of the meridian system. Talk a little bit more about what that means when you're working with the meridians and how they can become out of alignment and how energy is approached from that perspective.
So the Chinese way of looking at health is, I guess you would say, you'd be more familiar with it than perhaps a traditional person who grew up in the West or New York City. Because in the West, we do think about these isolated systems acting in isolation, and you wouldn't be alive if everything wasn't communicating all the time, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, so Chinese medicine has that global holistic perspective, and the meridians are actually groups of tissues that function together. So, for example, your lung meridian starts here, travels up your arm, goes into your chest, into your lungs, right? Both sides. And so, if you look at what this line is, this is a three-dimensional structure. It contains your skin, your nerves, your muscles, the lungs themselves, the lining of the lungs, the blood, the lymph, the fluids in there, all of this stuff, the connective tissue, the soft tissue, the bones. All of this is part of one meridian, and this is one communication unit. So you have 12 main meridians in the body. Most of the 12 are bilateral. There's other meridians. There's a lot to this,
Yeah,
to
lots.
the
Yes.
structure. But when you get all 12 of these communicating well together, what that means is your body and your energy is held in health. So does that answer that question?
Yeah, it does answer that
Yeah.
question. It also, in terms of that, metaphysically, do you look beyond what's most obvious? Like, where does Chinese medicine take it?
Oh, so you can do a pretty deep dive into energy through Chinese medicine, and that's definitely something that I weave in because having an understanding of the meridian network is very useful for seeing where blocks are in the body, and of course that corresponds to blocks in the energy field. So
What constitutes a block? Because, we talk about these things, right? Okay, so I'm sorry. This is me just
Yeah,
always, I
go
love to
for
geek
it.
out, right? I'm just like, what constitutes a block? I know our thinking constitute blocks, right?
Mhm.
The way we think, how we think, the limitations of our thinking, right? And the power of
Mhm.
our words, they have vibration. That vibration has an energy field, right? And so if I think negatively all the time, that's what I'm propagating. But really, what is it that constitutes a block? At least
Chinese medicine would say that like block could be coming from a deficiency of qi, and qi
okay,
is sort of like energy becoming matter becoming energy. So it's this sort
right,
of it's like a concept of physics basically that
yeah,
the ancients have been aware of for a long time, and science is just kind of coming back too. So it's nice to see this like, oh, systems recognizing themselves, right? Explanatory systems. So fundamentally, when health is not happening, is because there's a blockage in the chi flow. It could be from a deficiency. It could be from like an excess, like, like there's a dam, there's too much water in the dam and it can't get through, something like that. There's different reasons that you might have a block, but those are kind of the two basic ones.
okay. And so, how do you actually relieve those? Is that where the needles come in for acupuncture? Is that like key pressure points that just relieve and allow that chi to flow when it's blocked? And what are you actually relieving?
Oh, so yes, acupuncture points, in a sense, it's a little bit like the keys on your keyboard, right? Like they all have different functions. And when you combine them together, then you get that program running that you wanted to do. So if you want to send an email, first you got to open up your browser, log in, type, hit send, all that stuff. There's steps to it, right? And acupuncture points are kind of similar. You put them together and it reminds the body to run the system that it runs the program that it already knows how to do, because this is encoded with a lot of information about how to maintain itself in health. So you can stimulate that intelligence with needles. You can do it with your fingertips, like just topically, rubbing different points on your body if you know how to do acupressure. There's many different ways.
Okay. So I'm sitting here going, this is phenomenal. And I love the work that you do. And before we get into like how you definitively, because you know who your target market is,
Mhm.
and it's just like it is the person that doesn't fit in the system. Why
Mhm.
that?
Why them? Oh, I love working with people who know that they're wired differently and they just, you know what, like all the normal systems in play, great, but I just can't not, no, it's just not quite for me because I'm one of those people.
I am
Um,
too. That's why I'm asking because it's like
yeah,
in corporate, I'm not a corporate person. It's just not me.
right. I mean, it's really difficult if your nervous system is wired to not do that. You can do it. It takes a massive amount of energy to fit yourself into that box. And oftentimes, what happens is a burnout because your system is like, we're not going to do this anymore, right? Please let it stop. But we don't usually pay attention until that happens. So why I am attracted to these people, aside from being one myself, is like, oh gosh, there's a wealth of creativity and vibrancy and energy in these people, whether or not they know it about themselves or, they're actively working with this capacity that their nervous system already has. Like, I just love being around that. It's fun, it's engaging. Interesting things happen when you're in the room with these people.
Yeah, and the reason I'm also bringing this up is because, like, I told you offline, like, acupuncture to me is phenomenal. It saved my life. You
Mm.
what you do and the knowledge that you bring, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dr. Rui Wang, who is an acupuncturist who helped me tremendously bringing my body back into balance when it was so out of place. All anyone ever wanted to tell me was surgery, surgery, surgery. But because I took the longer road and the healing road and the natural road and just slow and steady wins the race, I'm here today and I'm here healthy today. So I think it's really
Congratulations.
important why you selected the people. And when you talk about the nervous system being out of place and the sheer stress and anxiety and how it truly impacts the body, it's huge. And it's
Hmm.
really, really significant. So I think it's really important why people understand why you're targeting this, because when you're a square fitting in a circle, or a circle fitting in a square, and it's just not working for you, and you're using all of your energy to push into it and navigate it because the responsibilities say so, the family says so, or the negative impact of you not doing that feels so much more tremendous than you actually going through the motions and not having to deal with the fallout from it, that this is really, really important. And people are living this every day.
Yeah, it's quite interesting, right? Because, the human community, one thing we really need is we really learn from each other. So it really depends what kind of environment you grow up in, whether or not you get exposed to the idea that it's okay to be yourself. And a lot of us don't, not through necessarily anybody's fault, but that's just how it is in the place that you grow up, right? And
Yeah,
oh gosh, that makes it really hard. And that's perhaps is the reason why, we're experiencing all these larger political struggles and things like this, because not enough people are living authentically. Because when you live authentically, then you make systems that actually work for you and your community. So this is
exactly.
we need to get more of us doing this.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you said that you have three masters. Okay, I have one master's, and I know how hard that was. So
Oh,
I have to ask you this: what are your masters in, and does this align with what you're actually doing?
oh yeah. Well, so my first master's degree was in French literature because I thought I was going to
Okay.
be a professor. And then, I transferred into acupuncture. So I got my second master's degree it's a master's in acupuncture in New York City. And then I moved back to Florida for family reasons. And because the licensing laws are different in different states in America, I had to go back to school there. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do this other master's degree because I thought I was going to go to California next, which had even different requirements, and that would have met those requirements. And then instead, we moved to Paris.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. So taking this global, doing things, you said that you do remote sessions. Talk to us a little bit about, as an individual, if I were to approach you for wanting a remote session, what would I experience? What is it that I'm in for? Because I've never heard of remote sessions. Well, in terms of energy, yes, okay.
Mhm.
But with the specialty of acupuncture behind it.
Oh, well, so the acupuncture only happens in person, but the remote treatments are energy treatments. And because I have a lot of training in Chinese medicine, I can help identify when there's meridian blocks in place. But what it often is with people is it's the nervous system dysregulation, which is not language that fits it precisely into a Chinese medicine frame. It's really more about your energy field. So I'm a little bit like, your energy field is where you live, right? It's the home you live in, and you've been in your house for a long time, so like where things are. But probably in your field, there's places you haven't visited inside your house because the lights haven't been on. So maybe you've investigated, but you can't really see the rooms too clearly, or you've hung out in there, but you don't really know what they look like. So I'm like the architect that comes in and I help you turn on the lights so you can actually see how beautiful, how spacious is this place that you live in. And it feels like coming home because it's a place that you have always known. And once you get to see that, oh, all of this is possible, then you also realize, oh, wait, there's even more expansion that's possible. And this is a place where you don't need permits to expand. So where you
No.
take it is up to you.
So this is really interesting because coming from as an energy healer myself and working with different things, we all come from, there are many roads that meet the same one, and I love that. And as you execute working with energy in certain ways, I know that the approach is different. So like, how does that how does that work? Here I am. I'm one of your clients. I'm right here in front of you, and you need to work with me. And you can tell that I'm probably, well, hey, you can look at me right now and tell me how I look, or what might be blocked or whatever else. Are you able to do a body scan? Is that what you're doing, or is it the way that I respond?
When I work with somebody, it's an experiential process for them. So, like, I do introduce them to their field in a soft way so that they can get to understand, okay, right now I feel like this. And then that opens the door for them to perceive other aspects of their field. Um, so it really depends what's going on with the person. I like to start with a little bit of breath work. So they start to connect to themselves physically and they understand where their energy levels are at the moment. And then
Okay.
from there, we go into getting some more resources. So you can resource yourself in a lot of different ways. Some nice ways are to connect to the earth, to connect to cosmic energy, to understand how close your aura is to you, and if you need some more room in there, because all of these things just make you feel like, oh, okay, I got some space and I got a little extra strength. And this is like, turning the dimmer switch up in the room. So you're like, oh, look at this place that I'm in. It's really nice in here. And then each person's experiences, as you know, it depends. It depends where they are, it depends what's happening in their current lives. And I can see a lot of different layers for them. Like I'm looking at the architectural map of their house. It might be something is happening with, a past life or their inner child or their guides, or there's something sticky in their field, so to speak, that, they need to like refit the plumbing in a certain room, something like that. So it depends.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. It really, really does. And thank you. Thank you for indulging me because it's just like, to
Mm.
me, it's fascinating coming from a shamanic perspective, indigenous peoples, and then, always wanting to know about Chinese medicine. Also, one of the things I also noticed in some of the offices that I've visited, that there is a yin yang poster right there. And I used to
Mm.
go, oh, that's just a pretty picture. But then I was thinking, ah, wait a second. That's
Yeah.
a portal. That's a portal, and here we are dealing with energy, and that energy has to be able to go somewhere, transmute somewhere, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like,
Hmm.
okay, there has to be a little bit more to this than just that's a really nice picture. And I just think that
Oh,
that's
yeah.
fascinating. Yeah.
Oh, that picture is a map and a scientific theory, and it's genius. Oh my goodness, the yin
Yes,
yang
it's
symbol.
a map. So can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when you see it on the wall, you see it as a two-dimensional structure, right? But actually, if you think about it as a sphere, and if you think about it as like kind of energy movement flowing around itself, so like what it really is a torus shape. You know that shape? It's kind of like
Yeah.
a donut, not like Taurus
Yes.
the bull.
No.
It's really like a torus shape, and then the two dots that exist inside each of the poles, if you will, of that. This is kind of the central energy channel. So like this picture on the wall, if you 3D it, it becomes this whole other thing. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. It
So
really does.
the central energy channel kind of corresponds to the central energy channel in the body. In Chinese medicine, it's called the Chiang Mai meridian. In the yogic philosophy, it's the Sushumna. There's probably a word for it in your tradition as well.
Hmm.
And yin and yang represent the physical aspects of everything that we can experience in this current universe. And this is like as a scientific theory, it's literally the most correct and complete theory I've ever encountered. I've never found anything that it doesn't explain. And I spent a lot of time thinking about this. So, um, everything that you interact with has both yin and yang qualities, and they will, given enough time, generate each other, turn into each other, and they grow each other. So it's quite lovely. I could go on.
Yeah, I would really like you to go on a little bit more because I think it's fascinating, and the whole thing is that we always tend to look at things in the 2D structure and understanding that it's a 3D structure and it does represent the Shishimna, which is what I'm familiar with too also. Um to me is absolutely fascinating. So it matches right up against our system very,
Hmm.
very completely. And
Hmm.
that to me is just absolutely fascinating. So that means that it means, what in that range, like when you're working on the nervous system, you're able to just isolate or just truly deep dive into that aspect of it. Is that based on that representation? Is that am I getting that right?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I mean, it does give you a map to expect what can happen, right? Because yin
Okay,
will
what can
turn
happen?
into yang. And both of these elements will experience like peaks and valleys, right? Like the big part of the kind of karma.
So what
Then
I've always heard is like hot, cold, or
Mhm.
or wet, dry, and so those types of systems, does that map right into it?
Yes. Yes, because everything has yin and yang aspects. And if you want to kind of differentiate to try to understand them, the typical ways of explaining are like, yang is hot, yin is cold. Yang is masculine, yin is feminine. Yang is bright, yin is dark. The actual Chinese pictogram of yin and yang means yang is the bright side of the hill, yin is the shady side of the hill. So, like our current understanding of it as having these sort of like gender roles, like it's not part of the original structure, but I think it helps modern people to think about it in that way. And so, because these principles are at play and these principles do not change, because this is a fundamental feature of how life exists in the universe that we're in, yin and yang will both peak and wane, and they will generate each other. So, like one thing that you might see, somebody has a really bad fever, really high fever. You know what will happen eventually is they'll start to feel really cold because that yang peaked. Then the only place it can go is to transform into yin, something
Okay.
like that. And you can see this in nervous system reaction in people as well. If you've experienced something like a burnout, it kind of depends what kind of burnout you had. Did you have this yang experience burnout where you like kind of feel fried and like, yeah, can't slow down? Then you're gonna get exhausted. The rest of the
Okay.
burnout is gonna be like, oh, I can't do anything anymore. If you had this kind of yin depletion burnout where you're like, okay, it just wiped me and I can't move now. What's going to happen if you don't, if you don't try to regulate this, is it will turn into kind of like a hot frantic mess.
Okay.
So these things turn into each other when they're not balanced in our health systems. In the natural world, things turn into each other, and it does not require like our control or input in the same way, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, understanding that you can see a plethora of different things happening with different people, what are you seeing the most of, knowing what the circumstances are in these times right now, coming off of COVID? What are you seeing?
It's we're living in interesting times, which is
Yeah, yeah, we really are.
yeah. I mean, that's like a Chinese curse, but I think it's also a nice way of explaining things. So it doesn't have that kind of negative connotation for me. To me, interesting is a really good word. So yeah, what's happening is a lot of people are kind of coming online to like, oh, I need to participate in my life in a way that is actually nourishing for me, and the opportunities to do otherwise, to like continue in the path that's not working, are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and people are getting pushed out of those ways. And sometimes that's really fun for them, and sometimes that's really uncomfortable.
Okay.
Um, and that has been kind of the trend since COVID. But like more recently, what I'm seeing is that since there's more people aware that they have the ability to participate in a really positive way for our human collective, and that the earth has woken up in a very interesting way recently, some people are noticing that they're called to stay in one place and build what it is they're meant to build.
Right.
Now, not everybody's supposed to stay still. Some people are supposed to move around the planet and do lots of things, and great, that's how it should be for them. And some people need to like anchor and allow things to grow through them. And that's also beautiful. It's diversity that gives us the best possible of all the worlds, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Wow. So your work is fascinating, and I'm just
Thanks.
so excited about it. And thank you for allowing me to like deep dive in some of those particulars, because we just don't know about these things. And
Mhm.
like you said, it's been around for 3,000 years. And it's interesting,
Probably
like,
longer.
yeah, probably longer. You're
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And when we know peripheral knowledge, and you don't have the opportunity to really just sit down with it and understand it, it you lose a lot. You don't have the appropriate respect that you really need to have until somebody really sits down and just starts really just laying it out in certain respects. And I
Hmm.
know that that respect came from me when I had my scare, and that was the resolution to it. It was like, okay, I can do this, and I can work alongside it, and I can get the results that I'm looking for. Many people are seeking something. What would you say to the typical person, knowing what you know in terms of moving through this world in a better way? a lot of us are waking up, and for those people who are becoming aware, right? But they're coming out of that nervous system shock where they've been in um a square peg and they were round all the time. They knew they were round. They finally figured out a way to break out of it, but you can tell they're shell shocked. You can tell they have the PTSD of that. What do you tell those people, and what would you share with them in terms of the approach of taking care of their system?
Hmm. Well, the secret sauce for all of us really is to come into the place where we can hear the yes in our system. Because what we really need, you don't have to look very far. It's all right here. But, we need some practice learning how to listen to that. So if you're in this kind of frantic or shell-shocked mode, like it's too much yang and you just can't settle and can't listen. One of the first things that might be easiest to do is to practice yin activities and allow your nervous system to come back towards a calmer place. So, all the classic things: go outside, go for a walk, try to stay off screens late at night. If you can change your job because it's driving you nuts, amazing. Do things like yoga, soft things for your body. Listen
Yeah.
to music that's calming, build some rituals. I mean, there's many, many things you can do to support yin. And the more you make these kind of small shifts, because, really that's how change happens. It doesn't happen because you suddenly leap off the cliff and then suddenly you're swimming in the ocean instead. You
Right.
just take a step, take a step, take a step, and these little things build up. And one thing that I find fascinating about this thing that we're in, this body mind, is that it always responds to input. Always. It will do that forever. So the input that you put in, it takes in and it will process to the best of its ability as best as it can all of the time. It always does that. It's amazing to watch that at work. So if you continue to give it a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, it's going to go, oh, I can do that instead. Huh, that's cool. And then suddenly you're doing that. And that feels really nice.
Yeah.
But also, I think we need to recognize that it's okay to need help, because nobody does this alone. Nobody does. Yeah.
Nobody.
We
Would you
really
say that,
need each other.
yeah. Would you
Yeah.
say that the nervous system is the core focal point for everything, for all of the systems? It says it's almost like when we talk about the planets in the universe, we revolve around the sun,
Hmm.
and the sun is there, and that's like the focal point. We understand that. Is the
Hmm.
nervous system like the focal point that all of the other systems revolve around? Because it really dictates a lot. And, I never thought about it like that until I'm sitting here going, okay, we have the mental system, we have the respiratory system, we have the digestive system, we have all these different systems,
Hmm.
but when the nervous system is shot, that's it. I mean, like, yes, of course, many other parts can go wrong, but like, is it the focal point?
No.
No?
Nervous system is just a word that corresponds to kind of a lived experience. There's other words that also encapsulate the idea of that. If you want to look at, the kind of energetic word, it could be spirit or soul.
Okay.
Yeah. Or it could be love. So nervous system is a way to talk about it um, through how we experience things.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you. And that makes sense to me. Okay, of course it would be the soul, or the energy being that we are as the true center. But I
Yeah.
just wonder in terms of the fact that, we see so much anxiety. We see
Yeah.
so much well, just things that are all focused right around that part of not being able to calm down, not feeling loved or worthy enough, and that oppression, and feeling like we have to break out of something, and that nervousness that works all around it. So maybe it's not the fact that it's the focal point more than things are challenging our nervous systems more so now than ever could.
Well, we're lucky though that we get to have experiences that make us reconsider how we do things because when we're happy and comfortable, we don't make changes.
That's true.
So it's
That's
not
true.
easy to frame problems in the way of like, oh, this is an opportunity. But if you can get there and do that, it sure makes it a lot better to move through it, you know?
I love it.
Um, and like, we don't have the same choices that we used to have about how we can do things. And thank goodness, because otherwise we would just keep these systems in play. And as we can see, they're really not working for a lot of people on the planet. We got to build something new. So this discomfort is what's going to allow us to create something.
Okay, okay. So talking about building something, tell us about how you were actually, in fact, able to do offices across the world. You talked about building three offices, worldwide and
Oh yeah.
spreading and et cetera. Talk to us a little bit about your workplace and how you were able to build.
Oh, so I've opened 4 studios in 3 countries, and it's mostly just because I keep moving around. And
Okay.
my job, I love it. So like I'm gonna keep doing this. So like while I'm in the place that I'm in, I'm gonna, make something happen. So
What countries are you in?
so I've been in Florida was my first office called Open Door Community Acupuncture, and then I was in Paris with Acupuncture in Paris, and then I'm here in Lisbon with Acupuncture in Lisbon, and I had a collective called Lisbon Wellness, which I did close recently because eventually I'm going to move again, but that was lots of fun, and so we'll see where I go next.
Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah. Well, some of us cast our net right around the neighborhood. I'm one of those world people too. I cast my
Hmm.
net all over, and I just think it's a beautiful place to be able to touch people wherever you go and whatever you do. And thank you so much for what you bring and what you do for the world.
I mean, thank you. I'm lucky I get to.
Yeah. So, how can people work with you or reach you or reach out to you to speak with you about what's going on in their lives?
Oh, I've got all the easy ways to get a hold of me. There's a website, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's Facebook, there's WhatsApp for calls. So all of those are there. My website is my name, HayleyEnright.com.
Okay. And that's
Yeah.
spelled Hayley. So for those people who are
Hmm.
looking out, yeah. Haley,
Yeah.
what would you like to leave our audience with?
Oh, well, the secret sauce lies within. You got this. You can do this. If you feel alone, then like I invite you to investigate your energy field because you might be really pleased to discover you've got a lot more support in there than you were previously aware of. And it is such a lovely experience to come into a closer relationship with how amazing you are. And this is what I get to see every day at work. I get to see people kind of falling in love with themselves again. And that is just such a blessing. So, you got this, babe, is my big message.
I love it. And thank you for your enthusiasm too. Your beautiful light that you are.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you. So you have just met Hayley Enright, and if you really like this episode, then please subscribe and like us and share. Share this information because somebody out there needs this. Somebody out there needs to work with Hayley. And she's right here sharing all the plethora of knowledge that she is and the beautiful light that she is. So
Oh, I almost forgot. I would like to offer a special gift for listeners. I've got a cool nervous system quiz. It's just 15 questions. So you can see how your system is doing and what you might like to pay attention to first on your journey of regulation. And also, if you would like to work with me, please enjoy 50% off a recalibrate treat. If I can speak today, a recalibrate treatment, and the code is podcast 50.
wonderful. So you heard it here, everybody.
Yeah,
And can we put that, your website and everything will be down in the description for this podcast so people will
yeah.
be able to go right into the description to start your search and enjoy exploring the information that you're bringing forward here. So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Enolia. I really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Okay, everybody. So we'll see you next time. And this has been another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. Thank you, everyone, and take care for now. Bye bye.